All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't care where you are in the world. It's time to hang out with your friendly neighborhood crypto nerd. And today we've got Austin from xBacked. Let's jump into it.
What's up, everyone? Real Lauren Wixom here with Monty, with KryptoNurd, and we are here live in the virtual studio with Austin from xBacked. Austin, how are you?
Going really well today, guys. How you guys going?
It's
Doing
fantastic.
great.
It's a little cold here in Texas. So Austin's in Australia, and he was saying it's a nice sunny day there. And I'm a little bit jealous.
Yeah.
Way to rub it in.
Yes. My connection was a little dicey here. Like, people in Texas are not used to getting like cold snaps and snow and a little bit of chill. So I am going to have a little escapism back into the Algorand virtual world as we talk about DAOs and stable coins and the ecosystem and all of that cool stuff. But I don't know, Lauren, why don't you start us off here?
All right. Well, I always like to kind of start everything with wanting to get to know, our guests a little bit and kind of figure out, how they got to where they are today. So if you could just, Austin, just give us a little bit about your background and how xBacked came to be.
Yeah, definitely. So my background starts way back in primary school when I wanted to make video games. So that's how I got my start programming and building stuff.
Mhm.
And then throughout like high school, I fell into web development. So my last couple of years of high school was spent in class writing code instead of paying attention in English and that sort of thing. Which was well worth it because I found out I really liked to build products.
Awesome.
And I came out of high school, went into university, and in the first semester break we had, there was this trend or this guy that I followed that was doing 8 startups in 8 weeks, and I was like, I'm not going to do 8 startups, but I will try and build as many products as I can these holidays. And so as part of that, I ended up starting speaking to some startups in my city. And one of them was like, hey, you should come and work for us. And I was like, you are kidding me. And they were not kidding. So
it was real. All right.
Yeah, it was real. And so I was thrilled with that and got to work with a really talented team. The product was basically Tinder for jobs back in the day. So kind of one of those classic hackathon projects.
Right. It got you in, it got you some exposure, and you were bitten by the bug.
Exactly. And so from there, I worked at a bunch of other SaaS companies doing different types of development. So I started in front end, moved into back end, into cloud infrastructure and DevOps. And then I did an incubator with a bank in Australia here. And that was a great experience, taught me a lot. Taught me I should probably learn how to speak to users and how to actually understand their problems rather than just how to build solutions. So I transitioned into product management at the SaaS company I was working at. And at the end of that, that's when I sort of got the opportunity to pursue xBacked.
So, excellent. So the SaaS background, how does that apply towards, the Algorand ecosystem, stable coins, lending, something, all of this that comes into play? It doesn't seem like it's a natural fit, but yet it is. Talk about that.
That's a really great question because on the surface you go, what does that have to do with anything? So in university, I studied computer science and finance. So I had a pretty strong interest in algorithmic trading and macro finance and all that sort of stuff. And also a friend at the time was pretty deep in crypto back in 2017. He was working on crypto projects. So the bug didn't bite me then. I sort of thought it was a phase.
It was nuts. Okay.
Yeah. So I think what I'm really thankful for is being grounded in SaaS, understanding you can't just build a product and hope people come and use it. I think that's a really common misconception, especially with developers.
Yeah,
but
in
crypto,
will come, but you need people you need people, right?
Exactly.
If nobody knows you built it, then did you really build it?
Exactly. And I think in crypto, people fall into the other trap, which is build it and the degens will come, right? You have some crazy liquidity mining incentives and people come and they use a protocol and then your incentives go away and they go away. So yeah, I'm really thankful. I've built a fairly generic set of skills being programming, being able to talk to people about their problems and figure out why they're motivated to use, in this case, xBacked and the XUSD stablecoin product. So yeah, it's been a really, really exciting journey so far.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. Now, stablecoins come in a couple of different varieties. There's probably some business decisions. You're probably in a back room somewhere talking it out and trying to figure out, okay, this is the way we want to go. Why? So why did you choose the over collateralized model that you're going with now, as opposed to some of the other versions?
Definitely. So I think one reason. So when I think about stablecoins and decentralized stablecoins, your options are like over collateralized or fully algorithmic. Or you can do something like Olympus, and that's not be a stable coin and just be this like
Quasi.
Yeah, like this decentralized store of value, like over time it'll stabilize kind of thing. So with the over collateralized model, I think like when I first started looking at Algorand and got introduced to the Algorand ecosystem, it was just an obvious like first step for DeFi on Algorand, right? There was no other crazy primitives. There was no Olympus forks. So we just needed like the basic building blocks to begin the Algorand DeFi, autumn, summer, whatever you want to call it. So it's been great seeing like Tiny Man, AlgoFi, Algo Mint, and other projects come online. Like Exa in testnet and that sort of thing. Yeah, like I don't know, it felt very quiet 6 months ago, and now we're here.
All of a sudden, boom! Yeah, everybody's in testnet going. Speaking of which, your testnet, so you did, your first kind of private testnet, and now you've got public testnet, right? And that's been going on for what, 30 weeks, give or take, something like that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so we started in a closed testnet, mostly because like I knew things would be broken, and I didn't want to like have a wide audience basically reporting all the same bugs. So we started with a closed group, which tested the hell out of the product and found all the very obvious kinks. And so when we launched 2 weeks later to everyone, there was much less friction. So that's worked out really well. And our community has been giving us awesome feedback and still finding like bugs and that sort of things for us to fix ahead of our order.
Excellent. Okay. And I didn't mean to cut you off earlier about the, why go with the over collateralized model. I just got excited about the next step there in testnet. So over collateralized, again, to kind of go back to that, what was it about that model that appealed to you more than the algorithmic model and any kind of like a, hybrid or anything like that?
Definitely. So hybrid we'll get to. But I think it was just like a tried and true method of building a stablecoin, and I think that's what Algorand needed like right now. And then in the future, other protocols like can build on top of some of the code, xBacked rights, and that sort of thing, and build something more advanced and start to push the envelope. And we have done some things to put a twist on the normal over collateralized stablecoin protocols. But the model itself just seems like to make sense. Let's just build this and then expand from there.
Excellent. All right. So things that are unusual for a type of company. So if this was not a crypto company, you wouldn't be able to do some of the things that you do now. Like you wouldn't have direct interaction with people on a YouTube channel. You wouldn't be partnering with, Lauren does, NFTs, and I've been flexing my Guana mug this whole interview so far. And you had a partnership with Guana. So, and I'm rocking my Algorand hoodie today as well. So, the community, I think, really enables people to get to know their audience in a totally different way. How has that been for you? I know you've done AMAs, you've done, various, interviews like this. You're active, in Discord, on Twitter. How has that direct interaction been for you compared to some of your other companies, right? Because those are startups, but they're still kind of a different world.
Yeah, definitely. So comparing it to like startups, when I was a product manager, I would be constantly talking to users and customers and that sort of thing, always on the phone, emailing, all that. But having direct access on Twitter and Discord has been super, super interesting. And the Algoana collaboration last year, that was a fantastic sort of kickoff. Like, hey, here's xBacked, here we are. And what we want to do over time is select other NFT projects to be like the mascot for xBacked going for the next 6 months, right?
Kind of like a rotation.
Correct. And the community can like vote on who we should sort of commission or that sort of thing. And then the community can also vote what should happen to the old mascot. So I think that's going to be pretty exciting.
Like we take him out back. I mean, what do you mean with the old
exactly
He gets retired to like the Hall of of Hall of Fame or Hall of Shame, depending on how good they were for the last 6 months.
I mean, one interesting idea, and we'll have to see what comes out of Algorand this year, but an NFT DAO. So like Coffee Bean DAO, I think is one, and then I think there's another called Kin DAO.
Yep.
They're like the two NFT DAOs that come to mind, and so sending the Goanna there and locking that in their vault could be an interesting thing to involve their community in xBack's story.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, Kin was very stealthy for quite a while. Coffee Bean kind of evolved really just more as like a community event. It just sort of happened. Interesting to see how that kind of came together. So, I mean, and there's a lot of interconnectedness, I think. So Lauren and I end up talking to, I don't know, or how many founders have we talked to directly? Like between now and Decipher and just like random contacts? Hundreds?
So many.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, I can't keep count.
Hundreds of founders of different companies. And one kind of thread that we've realized is that there's a lot of B2B connectivity between Algorand. In fact, just today they were sending out, Algorand proper is sending out, here, make sure your company is registered, and we could put you in contact with other companies and other founders, and they try and grow that ecosystem, which really seems unique to us. And you're obviously aware of the ecosystem because you just read off Kin, like those are just at the tip of your tongue. What other companies are you watching? Have you talked to? Is there other companies who are reaching out and saying, hey, use you on a business to business kind of a context versus end users?
That is a really, really good question, because that is something very unique and something that drew me into the Algorand ecosystem. Is everyone's pretty friendly and everyone's pretty open to figuring out how to collaborate. I think in other ecosystems it's far more fractured. I mean, you could argue far more decentralized, but I think given the youth of Algorand and the popularity is only building, the builders and the products want to figure out how we can work together to make sure the whole ecosystem can win. So who else have I talked to? I mean, Venue One is pretty interesting. So they're a prediction market coming to testnet relatively soon. I think that has been announced. Exa Finance is awesome. Yep. I think the product Ted has built is really, really nice UI. UX.
I'm looking forward to their basket feature. Is top notch. Okay.
Definitely. I've spoken to Guard as well. So the one of the other stable coins that's integrating with governance. In terms of collaboration and that sort of thing, we're working with AlgoFi, AlgoMint, TinyMan, and some others on Hack ALGO, which is a hackathon that will be organizing this year, which is super exciting. So that's one of those other weird things, because AlgoFi has a competing product to xBacked, but at the same time we're let's bring more attention to the ecosystem and bring in more devs and work together on that. So that's one of those unique things. And another project I'm just excited for is Zest Cap. I think they have have you guys spoken to Russ?
Yes.
I haven't. Lauren has, yeah. We're so busy now, sometimes we have to divide and conquer.
Yeah, no, I do. I'm a speaker on their Twitter spaces that they're hosting now. So
awesome.
It's fun.
Yeah, definitely. So I think they're onto something pretty big there. And man, that's it. But the other thing I also find interesting is the other products, some of them are decentralized. So a partnership, say, with a DEX is quite hard to figure out, because you can just go and bring liquidity to the DEX. And if they have, an incentive around doing that, that's awesome. Yeah. But a partnership with a DEX, I feel, is difficult to navigate, because there's no true incentive to be I'll just bring it over to your, product. So navigating, and a similar thing with something like Exa, it'd be great to be hey, can you add XUSD as a form of payment in your marketplace? But Exa actually accepts any payment of any ASA, so people can, if they want XUSD or they want to sell for XUSD, can just select that.
It's just a drop-down menu and everything that's in there.
Exactly.
Are they doing everything that's verified, or just everything?
I'm not sure. I guess they might approach it similar to a DEX, which is hide unverified.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Interesting. So let's say let's break it down like to the individual level. So I mean, we're talking about some business to business activities, and there's definitely that that potential, and I can tell there's more. But you know, I think you're we're probably going to see some interesting things come there. But let's just say Lauren's got $1,000. I think it's $1,000 minimum for you know, to kind of go through the process.
So that's been removed.
Oh.
In mainnet, it'll likely be like we enforce $100 limit, not 1,000.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Well, let's say
everyone.
let's say Lauren is still rolling though. So Lauren's got 1,000 algo, what have you. Walk us through the process there. What kind of benefits would she see by going through the process? What could she you know, leverage, or what benefits come out of this?
Definitely. So I think the major use case for products like xBacked is they allow institutions, investors, and people basically with large amounts of algo who believe algo is going to go up in value over the next 5 to 10 years. It gives them a way to unlock that capital without having to sell it, right? So like, and especially in size, right? If there's someone like a Borderless Capital who has a heap of algos, when they sell that down, they have to be careful about how they do that, given the liquidity and all of that sort of thing, right? So products like xBacked allow them to unlock that capital and allow them to put it to work in the ecosystem. And what does putting it to work look like? It sort of varies on your user. You might be using it to sort of de-risk yourself in an algo downturn. So you might supply it and you might lose in terms of algo, and you might get liquidated. But if you're still just holding your XUSD because you just wanted to wait for a buying opportunity, you could actually buy back algo at that cheaper price, right? And you wouldn't have lost all of your initial collateral, so you'll end up ahead.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Another use case would be people like, you know, the Borderless of the world using XUSD to invest in other projects and that sort of thing. It could be as well, like maybe XUSD is accepted on an NFT marketplace, and that's what you choose to use instead of USDC. So there's like a whole range of different use cases for XUSD, but they all revolve around like, hey, I have capital I don't want to let go of. I'm going to park it in this protocol and then use the asset I mint to go over here and do whatever I want to do.
Could people use it like leverage? So they put in their algo and they get, you know, stable coin out, then they purchase more algo, then they put in the algo, they get some more stable, like, and they kind of you know, really kind of leverage themselves multiple times there. Is that something that you have seen in testnet, or are people doing anything like that?
I'm not sure if I'm sure people are doing it in testnet. And like, obviously this is not financial advice, but other protocols make it very easy. So a protocol, Abracadabra, they have this looping feature, which allows someone to say, hey, I want to loop this 10 times.
Maximize this out. Yeah.
Yeah. So I assume for a certain like user of xBacked, that's what they'd be looking to do.
It's kind of an interesting, I don't know, product, or, you know, unintended use, maybe something along those lines.
Yeah.
I know you guys are talking about roadmaps coming up soon, right?
Yeah, that's right. So next week, it's March the 4th for me, so maybe March the 3rd for people over in the US. We're having an MA in our Discord where we're going to be talking about our roadmap for 2022. And we'll also be doing a couple of NFT giveaways for people that attend that.
That's always cool.
Yeah, so it won't be like xBacked specific. We'll probably just like buy an NFT project and do a giveaway in the MA. So yeah, definitely tune in for that. I guess in the near term, we're getting audited next month. So our smart contracts are pretty much good to go. We're just putting the finishing touches on before they get frozen for the audit.
Can you talk to us about the audit process? Because I've heard some horror stories, and some people are like, it's no big deal. Some people are, it's ridiculously expensive, and what you get is not worth it.
Yeah.
So I haven't been through it yet. I can say the thought of like freezing contracts is kind of annoying, because if there's more feedback from the community, you can't really integrate that in while you're being audited. In terms of cost, it's definitely expensive. In terms of quality, I'm sure it varies. I'm pretty confident in the auditors we have selected, though. And I think the most interesting thing coming from like my SaaS background again, I'm very used to being able to just ship product and just iterate several times a day. I can deploy a new version, I can deploy a new database, I can do all this stuff. In crypto, you can't do that. You launch your smart contracts and they are immutable. You can't update them. Not only that, but if you want to update them to fix a bug or add a new feature, something like that, you're going to have to book in an audit in advance, which then that audit will take like 6 to 8 weeks, depending on how much code there is. So I think the iteration cycle for products in crypto is limited by the auditors and their availability. So it's good that more auditors are coming to Algorand now. Like there's going to be more options than just runtime, which is exciting.
I should mention that ALGO Pulse actually connected us here today, which is fantastic. ALGO Pulse team has been very active in the community, and they're just part of this like Australian just I don't know, like just strong front that has been like, hey, we're the Australian United Front. Like you know, you got the YLDY team, we got xBacked, we got ALGO Pulse, we got all the mid stuff. So there's so much going on there. How important has that local support group been for you folks?
It has been, it's been really, really good having people in the time zone working in the ecosystem. And it just makes communication a lot easier, a lot more fluid. But at the same time, especially recently, like we missed out on Decipher last year, missed out on ETH Denver, just gone. So hopefully we'll be able to come over and meet more people in the Algorand ecosystem later this year.
Always Decipher 2022.
Right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
We'll see where it is. I don't know if they announced any of the details on that yet, but we're trying to figure that stuff out. It was a great event. I mean, during the time when we were there, we had, the YLDY team was there, but I think a lot of folks from Australia were in like their third lockdown or something and literally couldn't come. In fact, some of the YLDY team, they like were afraid that they couldn't get back in, for a certain period of time. Has that reality kind of changed the way that people interact, or is it just, all right, crypto world is a lot of remote work anyway? Do you guys work together physically on a regular basis, or is it, remote all over the world?
We don't work together physically often, but we do like get together every now and again and catch up like over lunch or dinner and that sort of thing. We go to like some local crypto meetups as well. But I think it has been pretty crazy just how much I've gotten done from my office here at home and the people I've spoken to. So remote work is definitely here, and it's definitely a game changer. So
all right, good. So I know the roadmap is you're going to talk about it in on the 3rd/4th, but can you give us a teaser, like anything big that's going to get announced out there that maybe just a little something, just throw us a bone.
Just a little tape, just something.
There may or may not be something coming that
I think an announcement of like when TGE is going to be, and potentially even what that looks like for the community. I think that could definitely be a part of the MA. And as well, I guess what our themes are for each quarter we're in, like throughout the year. So like obviously this first quarter is all about testnet and beginning our audit, and then next quarter, it's not hard to sort of figure out, hey, we'll finish our audit,
we're live.
And we'll probably go live. And so, I'm pretty excited to speak with the community about that and get some feedback, what they're excited about. Yeah.
All right, good. What other projects are you watching, not just from like, business standpoint, but you say, like, do you have some influence when you say, hey, we're going to go give away NFTs? Do you have a couple of like, hey, we're going to go get a Flemmy, or we're going to go get a...
Oh, no. No. We'll probably just like buy up, like the team likes tiny whales. Like we have some tiny whales.
Oh, yeah. Somebody's got that as their PFP, I think I saw, right?
Yeah. Like that's me and a couple of others, the community manager. So we might buy a tiny whale and another collection and share that with the community. But like we don't have a big collab planned for just this AMA. But I think, I mean, we can talk about it very briefly. I think doing an NFT strategy, you need to be careful because it's very easy to just say, we're just going to make NFTs and we're just going to mint them. and not have strong ROI behind that, or especially in testnet, like, hey, we're going to do NFTs for testnet users, and your conversion from testnet to mainnet is not kind of what you expected, but people got the NFTs. So I'm just making sure, like, with an NFT strategy, if we were to do one, we do it like in a way that provides value to the community and also has an ROI for the product and the launch and all of that sort of thing.
Do you ever see you guys working with music NFTs?
Oh, great question. Great question. I honestly haven't thought about it. I think music NFTs are pretty hot in Algorand though, right? Like we got Dequency and Opulus.
Got Crescendo.
Crescendo.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm not up to date on the music NFTs, so I might need to do
There's a few kind of emerging. Yeah. It's interesting. I would like to see a point in time where people can use more NFTs and throw them in a vault and be able to borrow against stablecoin type of an activity.
Yeah,
that would be really interesting.
On that topic, like another project I am excited for that I've just seen on Twitter, it's called Algorand NFT, and they're building P2P NFT lending, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So keep an eye out for that one. Like it's not very big, and I think it's just someone's sort of hobby project. But obviously, like it's pretty awesome. And the other thing is like the Algorand NFT community is super vibrant. So anything that can cater to that audience is going to be very popular. So I hope someone figures that out. Yeah.
There's pros and cons. So a community that is as tight knit as ours. So I mean, obviously the pros are there's a lot of interactivity. You get a lot of word of mouth. If you do something good, like people know who you are. You get to talk to the Goanna projects here. Like the word gets around. But also on the flip side, if something gets around, like you accidentally flub something up, like that gets word of mouth quicker than the positive stuff. Do you guys have like a crisis management play, like just in case like something crazy were to happen, right? Or how careful are you with postings and social media interaction, that sort of thing? Because a couple of misread words here or there could have major implications.
Yeah, I would say like we're pretty careful with the way we communicate. Like we do have a doc internally that sort of details how the team, like what topics are risky to talk about. What topics are like, don't worry about it, and that sort of thing. So that definitely exists. In terms of crisis management, like I think the gold standard of the worst case, which is protocol gets hacked, is Tiny Man early this year. So we've been talking to ALGO Pulse about like a crisis management strategy based on Tiny Man's response, because their response was really, really good. But I think in general, I think what's happening a lot is people getting rugged on dexes, and then that project gets a bad rep. And I think one project that almost like went badly was the Algo Scout project. I think they launched a token and they had to pull it, and then they were like, no, and they like were really communicating like, no, like this is real, but we had to pull it because like people were losing money or something like that. So I don't know the details, can't speak to it, but I'm pretty sure in the end they came good, because as well, like they tagged us because they picked up a scam coin for xBacked. So I think that project is pretty legit. But I guess, in general, pretty keen to see some stronger tokens come to market.
Algo Scout is interesting. I like the idea of self-policing. Obviously, Lauren and I kind of talk to that a lot. And there's even a couple of nerd tokens. We didn't even release anything yet. They're just out there. And how do you plan on dealing with any of those like unverified ASAs that come up and try and impersonate some xBacked dollars?
Look, that's a great question, because you can get verified, and only like you can mint as many types of tokens for XUSD and call it XUSD, but there can only ever be one. And that's got to go through Algo Explorer, and it's got to go through, I think, Algorand Inc., or maybe it doesn't anymore.
It definitely used to, but so you guys probably did.
But I think the solution needs to come down to like maybe wallets being very careful, especially with like the more major tokens and that sort of thing. Maybe they need to build in like truly like, are you sure you want to opt into this asset? You've already opted into one called XUSD. This is different. Are you absolutely sure? Like, that's one idea. Another idea, I think DEXs could like start hiding things that have freezes enabled and that sort of thing. That might be not true to DeFi Spirit, but I guess someone could just build another tiny man that allows those pools to be shown. But I think it is really hurting the community now. Like, it's like every week there's a couple of like, I've been rugged. So
or a couple of NFT projects that have been found to be copies of something else. Last week I think it was 2 or 3 alien projects simultaneously got shut down. Although one of them replied very well. One of them just disappeared and ghosted everybody. So that crisis management response again.
Yeah. And as part of that, like the team is not anonymous. Like, obviously I'm fully doxed. You can search xBacked on LinkedIn and we'll like pop up. We released team profiles the other day with just our like avatar PFPs, because I figure that's how most people would recognize us on Discord and Twitter. So yeah, I think especially after some recent events, like being doxed makes sense because you're staking your reputation on what you're building. So
speaking of being centralized but decentralized, your DAO status. So you're DAO, but yet you're also a centralized, organization. You've got team members. You still have the core functionality. So how do you balance that? And is there going to be some shifting at some point in the future to, full DAO, I guess, fully autonomous? How much can you go?
Yeah, definitely. So like decentralization is definitely a spectrum, but all like DAOs, well, at least like DAOs that are like building products, begin centralized. Because if you tried to do a DAO like from day one with fully decentralized decision making, that sort of thing, it would be terrible for building a product. You could probably do it for investments and that sort of thing. Like, that might make sense. But for building a product, it is extremely hard. So we are beginning centralized, but the goal is to decentralize over time. And that happens, when we do launch the token. The plan is to have over 50%. I think it's going to be 51 or 52, maybe even 53% of the token is going to go, like the allocation will go to the community over the next several years. So that's one way we'll decentralize, but it's very, very difficult. Like Kane, who founded Synthetics, he's got some very good writing on what it takes, like, and what it means to actually be a leader within a DAO and how that should work.
What is that? What job description? How much influence can you have? And there's actually quite a bit of intricacy there that you wouldn't think of initially.
Definitely. So I think their model for governance makes sense because they have centralized decision makers in the form of like this council. So they can like make some decisions without having to go to governance, and then obviously the community elects that council. And there are some decisions that still go through the community. But I guess his observation was, when you're leading a product team, that like the product team isn't going to be governed by governance token holders. It needs to be governed by, or not governed, sorry, but led by a real leader that can actually lead a team, even if the protocol's direction is decentralized, right? So it's pretty interesting to read some of the stuff out there. Another one would be MakerDAO. They transitioned only last year, I think, to being completely decentralized. So,
and that's a very like high-profile conversion there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely a journey to be on, but we are on the journey.
Okay, headed down that track. All right. Anything that we forgot to ask you today that you think is important to get out to the community for the KryptoNurd audience out there?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's been like quite refreshing talking about not just like the nuts and bolts of our mechanics, but talking more about DAOs and the Algorand community and that sort of thing. I would encourage, if you want to learn more about what xBacked is doing this year, come along to the AMA and join our Discord. That'll be.
We'll make sure we post links to the Discord and we'll get all that info out there. All right. Well, I appreciate you stopping by, having a conversation with Lauren, me, and just kind of talking shop a little bit and the greater Algorand ecosystem. It's been a pleasure. After your AMA, I'm sure there's going to be some fantastic news. I would love to have you back on, like, maybe a month from now to like just kind
Yeah.
of refresh and touch base on those things again and see what kind of
just, like,
progress has
catch
been
up.
made.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Would love to. Would love to.
And then we'll start using the service so we can cash out some algo tax free. That's like that's one of the benefits for me is like added liquidity without creating an event, and you get to like double dip on that sort of. So I don't know. I'm investigating those options.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, no, it's been really good to speak with you guys.
All right, we'll come do it again. I'll hit the what do we call this? The outro.
Yeah.
This is the outro. Here you go.